Hello and welcome to Grace for the Journey. What is the journey? The journey of life. Where is the journey? Right there where you are. Where are you going? You know where you're going. Maybe you don't. However, you are on a journey. And I'll give you an example. It was 2024 last year. Now it's 2025. You were a year younger than you were last year, the previous year, and then you gained another year, and then you gained another year. Maybe you had children, maybe you didn't have children, maybe now you have grandchildren. I don't know what's happening in your life, but welcome to Grace for the Journey. Now, sufficient grace is the theme for today, or the theme for the rest of the week. What is sufficient grace? Let us look at what the Bible said. And I actually have a 31-day journal. Wake up and pray. So we'll be jumping in and out of this, sharing our personal stories, sharing our personal experiences and testimonies of what the grace of the Lord has done, how the grace of God, how God's grace has sustained us, has been sufficient. Okay, so 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 9 says, "And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Isn't that a beautiful scripture? Now, I'm going to share with you a little bit, or a teaser, or a test, T-E-S-T, of what this whole thing is going to be like. I'll give you an example of what Apostle Paul was talking about, and I'm going to read from the theme of the day. The theme, sufficient grace. Apostle Paul talks about a thorn in his flesh, although the Bible does not specify what it was exactly. If anybody knows, please let us know. Write down in the comment section, send me a message, and we will dive into it and learn more. A thorn is something that would cause excruciating pain and discomfort to anyone. There are times, or rather ways we live, that we know that this thing here is here to stay, or at least until the Lord takes it away. I must live with it, even though it hurts. It might not physically be on you. Take, for instance, a mother like myself, with a child, with a special needs child. Personally, watching my child go through several surgeries and hospitalizations as he is now is very hard. We just came back home a few weeks ago from an 8-week long stay in the hospital. While we're hospitalized, or while my son was hospitalized, he had 2 surgeries. Not easy. Something you would look at and you feel your gut rising up. Now, and I'm going to pause here for now. We'll continue with this day. However, in those 2 weeks, what grace did for us was that there are times where I was mentally tired, where it was mentally painful. Just the thought of them drilling into his skull and placing what is called a halo gravity, or a halo, for halo gravity traction, because he had neuromuscular scoliosis, a condition that just developed as, I don't know at what point of his conception or creation. I don't know. All I know is that his back started bending and started twisting, and so they needed to straighten him up. So in order for them to straighten him up, they had to put a halo gravity traction for 6 weeks that would start training his muscles. That we are about to get straight. And after the 6 weeks, they went in, opened his back, and worked on his spine for 9 hours. They did that. Now that sounds, now when I'm speaking about it, because it's in the past, it's like, oh, this happened. But while it was happening, my brothers and sisters, I cried cries that I'd never cried before. I had mornings where I didn't want to talk to anybody, but I had to get myself together because nurses and caregivers and doctors were walking in and out of the room. I had moments where I just wanted to shove my head in the sand like an ostrich and hide away from everything that was happening, but I could not because I am the mother and I had to be strong for Joseph. Now, here is what grace does. The grace of God comes in so many forms and in so many different places. There is one day I remember at the hospital when I didn't want to do anything with anyone and I had to force myself to go downstairs and eat. I went down to the cafeteria, and the moment I walked into the cafeteria, my cafeteria aunties, as I call them, screamed, "Hey, Jojo Mama! Hey, Jojo Mama! Hi, Jojo! How's Jojo?" You know, their warm welcome ignited energy within me. I was able to jump up. We loved it. "Oh, you don't know. Jojo gave me a hard time this morning. What did Jojo do? What have you eaten today? What are you having for breakfast?" Those were some of the questions that they would ask me. And before you know it, I ordered my breakfast. We were laughing. I was crying because I was happy. I was crying because they were there for me. That is the grace of God. God used those women that morning to give me energy and to remind me that I am not alone. So as it is, that morning I got my breakfast, and I am sure, because they had known. I lived in this hospital almost 8 weeks, and I went downstairs to eat at least almost every day. Or if I didn't go, they would call up and say, "Jojo Mama, come downstairs right now and eat." Or if I went downstairs and I just wanted snacks, they'll be yell across the, "Jojo Mama, are you gonna have snacks for dinner?" And would laugh about it. So what I'm saying here is that the grace God's grace sustained me, in that I did not have, I was overwhelmed that morning. I was crying that morning. I was sad that morning. But I went downstairs, and these these sweet mamas of mine, cafeteria aunties of mine, put a smile on my face. The Bible, as we read, says that there is a thorn in my flesh. Apostle Paul was saying, "There's a thorn in my flesh." And he prayed for this thing. If you read a few script verses before that, he says, 3 times I prayed. And the Lord came to me and said, "My grace is sufficient for all of your needs." For all of our needs. For whatever we need. So that means that this pain, Gracie, it didn't go away, right? Because it was there. We don't know. I am not saying my son is a pain. Let's just make it clear here. But he is 14 years old. So that has been 14 years. Right from conception, 13. 13? Didn't he turn 14? Jojo turned 14. Okay. But anyway, the journey has not been easy. If I want to, I would love to know the kind of thorn that Apostle Paul had. I would love to know one day. But you know what? I will talk about a man that I saw and a woman that I saw. A woman that's still walking the earth. This man and woman, the man has passed on and gone to glory land. But one day he said to me, "Don't carry the burden. Give it to Christ." He was an amazing man of God, and he did so many things. And he had a son who had cerebral palsy. And this man, I think he wrote a book called The Man That Defiled something. I'll look for it. I have it somewhere there. This man's child was literally born unalive. There was no life in his body. The church had to pray for him to come back to life. And when he came back to life, he had cerebral palsy. He went on to get a doctorate, I think in theology. He prayed for the sick and the sick were healed. He prayed for the women and men that were looking for the fruit of the womb and they had children. And I had the opportunity to meet this man. He's gone on to Gloryland now. Why am I sharing about this? In every situation that we find ourselves in everything that we might go through in our lives, there is always God's grace. God's grace for this man and this woman to take their son with cerebral palsy, raise him, send him to school. The man literally traveled all over the world. I remember when he passed away, I posted on my WhatsApp, and this lady that I had just met from Botswana called me and said, "What happened to that man?" And I said, you know him? You knew me? He said, "Yes, he came to Botswana. He prayed for me." That is the grace of God, that against all odds, whether you're in pain or you're not in pain, whether the pain is going to go away, the issue, the problem is going to go away, he still shows up and he still gives you the strength to do what you're supposed to do. That is grace. That is sufficient grace. Why are you crying? Okay, so I have my daughter in here and she's just crying. Grace, you wanna share? You wanna tell me why you're crying? We'll talk about it later.
It's a great story.
Because God's grace is grace. These are just stories. And testimonies. I hope I didn't mention any names, and I know that this family would not mind me sharing about this. Now, so grace for the journey. Maybe you'll say to me, Titi, hey, I don't have issues. I don't have a sick child. Hey, listen, I might have mentioned at the beginning that at the beginning of the year, I have a board right here. I was just scribbling stuff. At the beginning of the year, you took a journal. This is one of the journals, marketing. This is one of the journals I created, and it's on Amazon. I have a few journals on Amazon. Maybe at the beginning of the year, you picked up your journal, you picked up your vision board. Some people are still meeting up for vision boards. That's good. Whatever you plan on, whatever you decide to do, whatever word of knowledge you received, guess what? You still need God's grace. You will need His grace for provision, financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. I did mention about my part of what I experienced in the hospital. I had one other day that I was numb. I was numb. Numb. I was numb. Numb. I was not angry. I was not sad. I was not happy. I was just there, and I was just breathing in and out. Something happens to you when you live in the hospital for that long. God bless the parents that have had to stay for 6 months in the hospital. I met a woman and she said she stayed for 6 months. She was from out of state. This particular hospital that we're in is a specialized hospital. They do bones and limbs and stuff like that. So, sufficient grace. grace for the journey. I'm on here to encourage you to say, as you go throughout this year, may you find it in your heart of hearts to pray for God's grace. Lord, grant me grace. I need your grace. And help me to what? Help me to identify it. Help me to know that this was you, so that I will be able to come back and say, thank you, Lord. So that I'll be able to come back and say what? Thank you, Lord. I'm not one to give up easy. I'm going to try this again. What did I say? I said in 2025, in 2005, may we be able to go back to the Father and say, Lord, help me. Help me to identify you, to know that this was God, so that I may be able to come back and say thank you. Sufficient grace. Now, I had just started telling you and sharing with you about that morning when I was numb, because maybe I wasn't numb. Maybe I was just exhausted and fatigued. Because when I'm in the hospital, I am seeing people walk in and out of the room. I am seeing people different people, different caregivers. Now, I appreciate them. I love them. I'm grateful to God for them. But I don't know you. Now, with that in mind, I'm asleep but awake. Because when Georgia needs me, I'm there. When they need me, when they have a question, because as much as they are nurses, they are not the mother of Joseph. So on this particular morning, I was very tired. I was very numb. And then somebody called me. Hello, Titi. Hello, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Hey. So I was just talking to my daughter, and do you know that I actually what did she say? She did say something very important. She said, I'm familiar with where you are. I said, you are? She's like, yeah. She's like, I want to come and visit you. Is it okay if I come with my daughter? I'm like, of course. Come on, visit. So they came to visit that day. And my mind was blown away. What this woman shared with me was her journey. I'm just gonna graze through it, but she shared with me her experience. She had walked the walk I was walking. She walked the walk I was walking. What do you mean? She had walked the walk I was walking.
Walk the path?
Walk the path. Thank you, Gracie. She had walked the path I was walking. And because she had walked the path I was walking, when she started speaking to me, it was different than when a friend of mine was visiting. Because a friend of mine was coming to support and, hi, I love you. I care about you. Oh my goodness, I'm praying for you. Do you need grapes or do you need grapefruit? Do you need water or do you need milk? All love, all grace, all kindness, all patience, all sweet. Eh, eh, eh. Mm, 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 mm. This and all that we need. However, when this lady came to me, Kate, okay, we're not doing that. When this lady came to visit, she said, hey, listen. There's a Beyonce song. She said, hey, listen, Titi, I know what you're going through because I went through it. Right. So sufficient grace sometimes can mean that the Lord will send someone that has walked the path that you have walked before. And when that person comes to you, I will give you another example for those of my Bible friends. Remember when Mary visited Elizabeth? And remember when even Apostle Paul himself, he had Ananias to come and visit him, pray with him, whatever. So when my friend came to visit, and I didn't know this part about her. When she came to visit, it was different. Why was it different? Because she understood what I was going through, because she understood the pressure that I was going through, because she understood she had walked in this walk, and so because of that, she was able to say, hey, this is my story. This is my daughter. This happened then. This happened to her. She told me this is what happened to me. This is what I did. This is what my mommy did. This is what this hospital did for me. And look at me now. I'm in college. I'm living. I'm growing up. I'm surviving and I'm thriving. That is God's grace. Your grace is sufficient for all of my needs. On that particular day, I didn't know that I needed someone that had walked the journey I had walked to come and say, hello, we did this, been there, done that. You will be fine. We are still on the journey. If you need anything, reach out to us. God's grace is sufficient grace. This is what I'm saying. Grace for the journey. Because when you're on a journey, so you drive, whether you drive or you fly, I don't know, whether you walk, there are times that you rest, there are times that you engage in a different gear, there are times that you cruise, there are times that you put on your blinkers, your indicators to say I want to turn left, I want to turn right. When you get to that T junction, you need a different kind of scope to look to your left and to look to your right, and you can glance at the front because the T junction, there's nothing really there. When you come to a four-way cross, you know that I have to look to the left, to the right, front, back, whatever. And if it is all stop signs on all different angles, so you need to know, was I the first to stop? Did that person stop before me? Maybe I was there first, but I need to proceed with caution because maybe that person is also thinking, was I the first person to stop or was I the second person to stop? I don't know. But what I know is that the grace of God, when we say God's grace is sufficient for all of my needs, we are saying that for everything that I'm going through, even things that I don't know that I need. Like on that particular morning when I was exhausted or numb, I didn't know that I needed someone to come and tell me that they'd walked the journey. But they did came, they talked to me, and we've been friends. We were acquaintances, but now we've become friends. When I post something on my page, her response makes a louder noise sound in my ear because I know that she walked the journey. I have not walked 2025. You have not walked 2025. But guess what? Our God knows what's lying ahead of us. Our God knows what's ahead of us. So because we do not know what's in front of us, we need God's grace. So in everything that you're going to pray for, in everything that you're going to do, in everything that you're going to say, I am encouraging you here on today to say, You need the grace of God and grace for the journey. We're going to walk this journey together, and we're going to share stories. We're going to have people come on and speak to us and share what God's grace means to them. I asked one person and they said God's grace to me means provision. I mentioned that we've been in the hospital. We were in the hospital for 2 months. One day I was worried about what the kids were going to eat. Not that we didn't have food, but how my husband was going to be able to cook and feed the four kids, take them to school, make sure they're clean, their homework's done. And one of the things that I wanted him not to worry about was food. And so because of that, I was just sitting there just thinking. And one friend of mine was like, "Hey, Titi, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm just worried about what I'm going to do. I'm going to the hospital in a few weeks." She said, "I got this, girl." Before you know it, she set up a meal train. I had heard of meal trains. I had supported other meal trains. But I never thought that I would have a meal train to support my family and I. So what then happened is that before you know it, people started signing up. We had people driving from Plano bringing food home. We had people sending us DoorDash cards. We had people sending us gift cards. We were fed until we got discharged. And even after the discharge, one of my mom friends said, "Hey, I'm going to continue giving the girls lunch because I know that you have a lot on your plate." We have friends, families, moms. "Hey, Titi, don't worry about, I'll help you with the school run." That's provision. That's God's grace being sufficient for all of my needs. So for all the things that I could worry about, food was taken care of. Went to the hospital, still food was there. So may God bless you, may God keep you, may God continue to walk with you in 2025, and I pray that sufficient grace and grace for the journey will be a blessing to you. I will be back on, I don't know when, but I will be back with another video. I hope to post at least every other day or every day as the Lord helps me. As you can see, I attempted to do a Facebook Live and then the kids were inside out, and I don't like yelling at the kids. I don't yell at the kids as much as I can. And so if we can't do it, we can't. But we'll be on this journey, looking forward to amazing speakers. We'll have professionals. We're going to talk about mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. We will go Bible. Whatever we do, it will be biblically based. And if we're going to give testimonies and stories, unless it's a folk tale, it will be stories that you can trace and say, this person that Sid is talking about, did they really survive? Did they really walk the earth? So may God bless you. May God's grace be upon you. And you can also support us by buying our merch, like the shirt I'm wearing today. It says sufficient grace. God's grace is sufficient grace. I also have another, well, let's talk about just this one. 2 Corinthians verse 12, verse 9. God's grace. My grace is sufficient for all of your needs. We also have another one that says the struggle is real, but the grace of God is greater. The struggle is real, but God's grace is great. I think that's what it says. So stay warm if you're in Dallas. Stay warm wherever you are. Try to eat as much as you can. If you can, if you're fasting, may God bless you. May God keep you. I love you. Shalom, shalom. Remember, grace for the journey. His grace is sufficient for all of your needs.